Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm doing my top 10 of 2011. At number 10, we need to talk about Kevin, the mother of a kid who commits kind of this horrible atrocity at his school, how she's trying to recuperate while also reevaluating like how she raised him and like what kind of a person he was and how he's kind of this psychopath. And it has kind of some Cronenberg elements to it. There's certainly some Cronenberg body horror in the way that she and him look very similar and look almost alien and out of place compared to everyone else with this dark hair. The cinematography is really just striking. It has a lot of horror elements. I don't know if I'd strictly call it a horror movie. Number 9 is Young Adult. It's very similar to Juno in some ways because the structure of it basically is like kind of The Descendants or 50-50 or something, where you're caught in a crossroads in your life and find the right way out of it. Those are honorable, life-changing, midlife crisis kind of movies. This is not honorable at all. She's a terrible person. These type of movies that I think kind of get a little bland and Oscar baity and boring. I think this is probably the most creative one of those crossroads movies I've seen in like a while. Number 8 is I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Devil has the same setup as a Liam Neeson movie. You have Lee Byung-hun. His wife is pulled over because of the snow and she's a flat tire and she's waiting for a tow truck. And then Chow Min-sik's character comes and kills her. And then, of course, he goes on an endless stream of revenge. But what's way cooler about this than most Liam Neeson movies is this has a lot more balls and is a lot more gruesome and vengeful and dark and creepier than Taken or Unknown could even imagine to be. Shock and gore, but also kind of amusing, which is something I did not expect. The humor in the violence of this film. What Lee Byung-hun's character does is he gets a tracking device, then he tracks Choi Min-sik's character and even implants it, like shoves it down his throat at one point, and he tracks everywhere he goes and like fucks with him, and he finds him, he beats the shit out of him, he goes to the hospital, he lets him recuperate, and then he does it again. He becomes this monster by attacking this monster, but that transformation is really interesting. It's shouting out the evil, like I saw the devil and this is how we'll get him, and we'll use our vengeful ways to get him. Number 7 is Cold Weather. This is a low-key, low-budget, kind of laid-back mystery. I like how normal everybody is in the film, and I think that helps the low budget feel of it and the low keyness of it, because you feel like this could have happened to one of your friends. Part of me thinks, is this Aaron Katz and this is his directing style, and he's not really thinking about mumblecore as a genre, he's thinking more of his filmography? Or is this film, much like how when blaxploitation was getting a little stale, they kind of combine with horror to make Blackula and combine with martial arts films to make like Black Fist. This has probably more crossover appeal than, you know, some other mumblecore films. Number 6 is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. George Smiley, who's trying to find a mole in British intelligence who is leaking secrets to the Russians during the Cold War. To me, this kind of spy stuff was always kind of very grown-up, complicated, no frills kind of a spy story, and that's very much what I got here. This film feels very like these characters are very drained from the spy life. They don't love it. It has an atmosphere to it which is very tense and suspenseful. I'm not sure what everyone's angle is. When I was watching it, I actually thought this film looks almost exactly like it was made in the 70s, and the book came out in 74, and I would say this is around the period. And the atmosphere of kind of like cigarettes and smoking. I mean, you used to be able to smoke like everywhere, and this movie looks it. It looks like the lens has like kind of some tar on it from everyone smoking so much. Number 5 is Tree of Life. This film is really about understanding kind of the loss of a major person in your life. Sean Penn's character contemplating death after his younger brother died many years ago, but I'm assuming, because this film isn't very clear, although it is, it often isn't. I assume it's some sort of an anniversary of his death, and he's kind of contemplating death and kind of rationalizing it. And in this, I look at it through him just thinking in his office, because of the way it's very stream of consciousness. And I'm not sure, certain images I know are imagination from his childhood, and certain ones I know are real, but it plays like memories, like certain parts are missing. The camera is very aggressive, but very interesting. Like the camera is never still, it's always moving, and always having fun, and always kind of finding unique imagery to say what the characters are thinking, or what at least Sean Penn's character thinks the characters are thinking, or thinks they might have been thinking. It's also very religious. It's almost like a visual sermon. It's a very honest film, maybe a little too honest sometimes. Number 4 is The Arbor. I guess a documentary. It's kind of a docudrama. It's about a British playwright named Andrea Dunbar, who wrote kind of working class English plays like The Arbor, and it's about her life and her children's lives, and she had children pretty young. Her first kid, Lorraine, who, after we follow Andrea Dunbar, she dies fairly young, and then the film follows Lorraine and what happens to her after her mother's death. And I mean, it was following her before, but it kind of, the storyline really just focuses on her after that point. This film is unlike most documentaries, because most documentaries are just either a series of talking heads. They take the audio from the real people and they have actors lip sync it. So they'd have an actor would be walking, or there'd be something going on visually, like they talk about when they accidentally lit their mattress on fire, and they're like standing in front of a mattress that's on fire behind them, and you couldn't really do that in a documentary. So it's a lot more dynamic. I really believe the actors I saw were the people, but they're not the people. But the audio I heard are Andrea Dunbar's family members. They also have video of Andrea Dunbar, like the real Andrea Dunbar, and her real family members from like various BBC interviews and reports, and they have her play the Arbor. They have scenes of it going on in the place she wrote it and where it takes place, in this like kind of housing project. Even though it's very emotional and you're hearing this really tragic story of this family and like this hard, serious life, but at the same time it's having this kind of intellectual theory going on, but the emotion works as well as the theory. It's like a debate over universal truth, because how I know someone isn't how someone else knows someone, and which version of that someone is correct is the truth. You're going through what universal truth even means, or how you're perceived. Number 3 is Attack the Block. An alien who crash lands on Earth near a English project, and these group of troublemaking muggers from that project find it and kill it, and then tons of more aliens come to attack them, and they have to defend themselves in their projects. This is very much a genre film, a lot like the early work of John Carpenter was. The format of a Western, but contemporized. It's very much a B movie. It reminds me of late 80s, early 90s New Line kind of movies, you know. The score of this film, which is by the Basement Jacks and a guy who worked on the score of The Lord of the Rings, making this very specific to London, and it's at the contemporary feel. If you're into sci-fi, this is one of the best science fiction films I've seen this year. Number 2 is Meeks Cutoff. A group of settlers, all couples, one has a kid, traveling by the Oregon Trail, guided by this character named Meek. He's guiding them to, I guess, new land to settle on. They kidnap an Indian traveler and make him their guide as they keep on their quest, which seems never ending. And they're always asking how many more days, like, what's your calculations? And it just feels like there's never really an answer. It sets up this kind of surreal but very historically realistic situation. I guess this would best be described as a feminist minimalist Western. Every time the men are always going off to have these meetings, if you overhear anything, they always seem like they have absolutely no clue what's going on. They've kidnapped this Indian and they're letting him guide them, but they don't know what he's saying. They don't know where he's really leading them. And the whole film has kind of almost a Zen vibe to it, that even though they don't really understand the point of what they're doing it. And my number 1 film of 2011 is Drive. Ryan Gosling plays a part-time getaway driver whose day job is driver for the movies, and also he works on mechanic. He meets his neighbor, who's played by Carey Mulligan, who is a nice little boy. They strike up a friendship. He finds out her husband is going to come home in like a week or so, and they kind of have a bit of a romantic thing, but they don't really do anything about it. But you can definitely tell through their staring glances and just their body language. Her husband comes home and he needs to pay off the protection money he had in jail, so he owes them $2,000, and they keep upping the amount, so he really just needs to do this one job to get them off his back. So Ryan Gosling's driver character helps him out. However, the deal goes wrong, and then her husband is killed, and the driver, he needs to go set right this crappy situation that he has been thrust upon. Just like in Detour, it was never his fault. It was always circumstance. You know, he opens the car door and the guy just happens to fall on a rock. And it was almost apologetic for like these horrible things he's doing. And Ryan Gosling's driver character isn't apologetic. He is basically melding spaghetti western and Charles Bronson and, you know, all those guys who, you know, when you fuck with me, I'll fuck with you. Like the noir style from the 40s and the 50s and such, that was a different time. And I think now you have to acknowledge, you know, the spaghetti westerns and Die Hard and everything, and that kind of kick-ass Rambo attitude. So that is my top 10 of 2011. If you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and maybe even leave your own top 10 if you would like to. And subscribe if you would like to. Also, I do reviews for this other channel called The Rough Cuts. I've been there since like October, September, I believe, and I do reviews on there every Tuesday. I will continue doing reviews. I kind of want to do more videos where I'm not just doing reviews, maybe talking about movie stuff, and I hope to do that in the coming year, like actually cover the Oscars. Thank you all very much for subscribing. I think it's been a good year for movies, and a pretty good year for this channel also.